Closer.
Awesome. So I just admitted everyone. I'll give them a few seconds to join. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's timely topics. My name is Michaela Hartle. I'm a program assistant at the Connecticut Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And today we are joined by Grace, who will be talking to us about conquering imposter syndrome. Grace, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Give me a second here to work my Canva buttons. So we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. And I thought this picture was perfect because I've always felt like such a clown and a fool when I'm in situations that I feel are way above my skill set, my pay grade. And so when I did this photo shoot, everyone's like, "You're really going to wear a clown nose?" I'm like, yes, I need to have a visual representation of how I feel and how I know my clients feel when they're out in rooms that they don't feel like they belong in. So I thought I'd give you guys just a little background on who I am and where my imposter syndrome comes from. So I am Grace Napolitano. I am a sales coach currently, but I'm a former media ad rep. I started my career in Chicago working for radio and worked my way up as national account director for Chicago Sun-Times. And then I was the youngest publisher in Chicago for a major city title. So everybody else, I was 37, 38 years old, and everybody else was in their 50s and men, and I didn't belong in their group. So that's where I really, really saw my imposter syndrome come out and affect me really negatively, where I couldn't move forward no matter. So we'll talk about that more. But really with imposter syndrome, you just feel like you're not taken seriously. You know, you have this immense pressure you put on yourself to perform. It's all this do or die mentality, and it really creates for an unhealthy life and mindset, and your social engagements can really, you know, kind of falter from that. So let's get into it a little more. Now, 70% of individuals will experience signs or symptoms of imposter syndrome. This first test was done in 1978, and it focused primarily on women. However, now studies are showing that men also suffer from imposter syndrome, and it is a mental, I don't want to say mental disease, but it is classified in that range there. So it's not just something that is to be taken lightly and flippantly, like, oh, my imposter syndrome got the best of me. Like, no, it is really something big that is being studied by clinical psychologists. So if you are a person who is part of that 70%, you know that this is something that is very debilitating and tough to get through. So I am here as one of your fellow 70%ers to say, I've got you a plan here. We're going to do this together. So where does it show up in your life? It can show up in every aspect, whether it be education, your relationships, you know, your parenting, your friendships. It can really show up everywhere. But today I'm going to really focus on entrepreneurship, since we are the CCEI. CCEI. I knew I was going to mess it up. So I'm going to focus there. But why does imposter syndrome come up? That's the thing that I found really interesting as I do my studies and think about it and talk to more entrepreneurs, is their gender norms. And women in the 80s and 90s, you know, we really broke through the glass ceiling and took our seat at the table. But it turned out when we looked to our left and right, we were the only ones there. I know for me, I was a sport marketing major in college, and I was so passionate about it. And when I did an internship with the University of Illinois, I was put in the ticket office, even though I had more experience than anyone else that was there in sport marketing. But because I was a woman, they're like, oh, we'll just have her sell tickets. So it's already, they're putting us in a place, and then our minds start taking us to that rabbit hole in that very special negative place. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm not good enough, and such. So that gender role stereotypes really kind of affect where we're placed. Your economic status. You may not have grown up with the same wealth and access as your coworkers have or other entrepreneurs. And you feel like, well, you know, I didn't go to an Ivy League school, so who am I to be in this competition with these other app developers or whatever you might be doing for your business? and you've already set yourself up as I'm not good enough as them. Racial differences. I saw this really interesting. We were in a meeting a few weeks ago with a woman who is African American, and she pointed out some stuff for us that was really interesting to see how she, as a very, very able-minded African American woman, she saw ways that people were putting her in a box that she wasn't capable enough to sit with them at the table. And then also, again, cultural norms. So maybe if you're a parent, I know I felt this as being the youngest publisher with two very young children. Shouldn't you stay home and take care of your kids as opposed to running this magazine and being sitting on boards with top CEOs that were men? So I think about, is it Sesame Street? I think that has like, what are these things? One of these things is not like the other. If you are finding yourself thinking that like, I'm the only woman in this group, I'm the only African American, I'm the only Hispanic person, whatever the case might be, I'm the only welfare or school loans, whatever the case, if you're finding that you're the only one, it's probably your imposter syndrome pointing that out for you. This is something that's really, really, really important to understand about imposter syndrome. Is I read so many coaches' blogs, their social posts, and people simplify it and dumb it down to like, oh, my imposter syndrome, I didn't know how to do this when I was starting my business. Like, you can't expect yourself to know every aspect of building a business. Imposter syndrome is not knowing what to do. If you can be self-educated, so let's say like you don't know how to balance your books as a business owner, you can either Google it, self-educate, or as I like to say, throw money at the problem, hire somebody to come in and be an expert. You're not expected to be an expert in all areas and facets of your business. So imposter syndrome is not knowing what to do, but yet it's an overwhelming feeling that you've tricked your way into this place, that you do not belong here, and they are going to come out and carry you out and say, oh, we took care of the problem. So no matter what your external validation, you're still sitting there thinking like, they're all dumb. They don't get it. They don't understand that I'm tricking them this whole time. So I thought this would be a good time to share my my personal story. I can't believe Canva had this little clip because that actually looks like my old office building in Chicago. And I envisioned these Secret Service type men with earbuds in their ear, standing at my office door saying, okay, we got her. We've removed her. Don't worry. Everything can go back to normal. She's out of here. The magazine will carry on. All is good. And every time my desk phone rang and I saw my boss's number come up, I get a pit in my stomach. Like I had just been kicked and just like, oh God, it's happening. They're firing me right now. You guys, my sales were up by 20%. This magazine was failing when they brought me in. It was now thicker. We had more pages, which meant more ads. We were being more welcomed back into the community because the old publisher had just like destroyed everything. It didn't matter what any of those numbers said. I still was certain that this guy every single day was going to show up at my door and pull me out. Like I had this vision of me like, oh, with them, like with my arms, like being held like a pig on a roast or something. It was very, very, very intense. This imagery I had. I'm very dramatic if you can't tell with all my arm movements, but I was very certain this was going to happen to me no matter what that external validation said of being up by 20%. So I share my story so that you get more comfortable sharing yours with imposter syndrome. I just came up with this the other day because imposter syndrome really does affect the most capable. My girlfriend and I always said, oh, I wish I were more ignorant. I wish I were dumber, because the things that I know that are out there, it allows me to compare and look at everybody else who's achieving. And, that saying, you can't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle, like that doesn't count in imposter syndrome. We expect, if we're going to be a news anchor or have a talk show, that we are Oprah from day one. The most capable among us, we're perfectionism. We have this need to study and learn more, and like it's never enough. So if you think about cancer, in the medical sense, it eats away at the good cells. Well, imposter syndrome is that negative thought that is eating away at all of our potential and capability. So kind of like keep that imagery in your head the next time you have those thoughts popping up. Now, as business owners, I wanted to think of some really telltale signs that I've seen with my clients and myself that imposter syndrome has paralyzed your success. First off, low pricing. I'm a sales coach. Number one thing is let's raise those rates, whether it's for your services, your hourly rate, however much your product is. I can hear people manipulating their way through justifying why their pricing is so low. No, that is number one that shows that you feel like you're not enough and that you don't belong. No boundaries with clients. How many of us have let our clients walk all over us? Like, okay, you have 10 hours, but yet they're calling you in the middle of the night. They're calling you first thing in the morning, multiple times throughout the day. I am currently dealing with one of those clients right now. And I'm like, because I am trying out a new aspect of my business and I see it. It's not an imposter syndrome thing for me. It's like, okay, before I engage with clients in this facet, I need to make sure they understand these are my office hours. These are the times that they can contact me. So when imposter syndrome is not, is breaking down the barriers with clients, is because you feel like you're at their mercy. You feel like you're the one that isn't smart enough, experienced enough, whatever, to be working with them. So you just give them full access. Then these small fish clients, I love this terminology because we're always after the whale. We want to go bigger, but we keep ourselves safe by playing with the people who are, they're willing to pay me $50 an hour. I'm going to work with them. I'm going to stay small. I want to be in Big Y or Stop and Shop. If you have a product, my husband's in grocery retail. So I always think of that. People always knock on my door to say, how can I get into Stop and Shop? I'm like, I have no idea. But you know what? I'm going to just go with a small boutique, or I'm just going to stay at farmers markets. I'm not big enough. I'm not skilled enough to be selling at a level that is Stop and Shop or Big Y. So you just stay small instead of trying to sell to bigger clients. That happens a lot, like media ad sales, mom and pops. And you're running around, you want to talk about no boundaries with clients. You're running around with these smaller clients, doing everything for them because you feel good about yourself. Your imposter syndrome's at bay, instead of saying, I used to joke, and Allstate, like all these corporations were based in Chicago, but I'd say, Allstate, I want to talk to Mr. Allstate, please. When I was cold calling, like, give me the biggest, toughest person at the office and let me talk to them. So really think about that. Avoiding social media, avoiding promoting your business because you're afraid that somebody is going to say, those trolls who are going to log on and comment on your post and say, what the hell? Like, who are you to be talking about this? This happens a lot with my coaches, waiting for their past to catch up with them. Like, are you kidding? That thing you did in the 12th grade, and you think now you can teach people to, meditate? I don't know. Really, for me, it was when I became a sales coach. Like, are people going to say, oh my God, you were like literally the worst salesperson ever? Why would you think that you could coach people to sell? I mean, I have all of the numbers that show that's not true, but it still pops in my head until I recognize that was my imposter syndrome, just being a jerk. And then this one I see a lot is letting someone else present your ideas. So if you're in a partnership or you're in a mastermind and you're sharing your ideas, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, you see a post or you see that person getting the trademark on it, whatever the case might be, because you shared your ideas instead of taking them to market yourself. So really look at what you're doing in your life, in your business, that is showing up in these ways. And I made these very specific to entrepreneurship and being a business owner. But notice how your imposter syndrome is, again, I said we're the most capable. So we're really smart. That means our imposter syndrome voice in our head is really smart as well. And we'll figure out how to sabotage you. So this is your self-sabotaging behavior that says, it's a red light, your check engine light that says, hey, we got a bigger problem here. We need to remove your imposter syndrome. So it's time to go from feeling like a clown, a phony, and a fraud to feeling professional and expert and having that experience. So to do that, I want to make sure I'm checking my notes here because I talk very fast and my brain moves very fast. That's something also, I don't think I made a note in here, is I've learned over my years of I've always wanted to be so prepared and really like over prepare for everything. And now I have so much more fun just being me and being like, wait, hold on, I got to check my notes. And I really wish I could go back into my younger years where I was so afraid of making a mistake to say, it's okay. It's okay to be personable. It's okay to be personable in your business. Make a mistake and just own it and be like, moving right along. We got this. So, yeah, I have no notes for this page. So moving right along, it's time to share my 3 tips for how to move past how we're feeling. There is what's really interesting about this slide here about normalizing your feelings is I Googled celebrity imposter syndrome, and it was like so many quotes on imposter syndrome. We all feel it. 70% of all humans. So that means like Michelle Obama was on that list. People who were like, but you're such a badass. Deal with this. They have to pull themselves out of bed every day. So here's Kate Winslet saying, you know, she wakes up in the morning and before she goes off to a shoot, she thinks, I can't do this. I'm a fraud. Sheryl Sandberg, who I love from Lean In, same thing. Like she's like, to this day, I feel like they're going to remove me from my post. She no longer has her post. She quit it. So I didn't use her as an example here. But I was listening to, if anybody watches the Dave Letterman show on Netflix, my next guest needs no introduction. Billie Eilish was talking and she's like, what's that thing? It's a syndrome. And her brother's like, Munchausen syndrome. And she's like, no, that syndrome. And Dave Letterman's like, imposter syndrome. She's like, yes, I'll lay down 70 tracks and be like, I should not be a singer. I shouldn't be doing this. I am so awful. So really normalize how you're feeling. Talk to your friends. What's something interesting about this was before I got into the coaching world, I didn't know that it had a name. I didn't know it had a title. And apparently Billie Eilish barely knows either. But I was talking to a friend of mine who's a multimillionaire real estate agent. She is like the most amazing realtor I have ever worked with. She works with high-end developers in Chicago. She's so impressive. When I was talking about this concept with her, she's like, oh, I have that. I have that. Like she was so excited for it to be named and to feel not alone. And I think that's really important for people who are sitting in these types of conversations to get out there and talk about it more so it doesn't feel so overwhelming and isolating. The second thing is know yourself inside and out. This is so important. And I found human design in my coaching world. I went a little deep in the woo-woo, which is 100% not me. But now that I know about my human design and my clients, and I'm able to look out and say, hey, here's where we're going to have our pitfalls. It allows you to learn your strengths and weaknesses. So something for me that made me feel like an imposter was I am a manifestor, and I'm not going to go deep into human design here, but basically it means I have no sacral energy. I cannot keep up. Now, 80% roughly have sacral energy. That's a generator or a generator type. That means they can go, 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 Energizer bunny. And me, I need to take a nap. Like after this, I'm literally going to put on sweats and like go watch Below Deck Mediterranean because I know that's what my body needs and my mind needs. But if I were to keep pushing, I'd be like, why am I so tired? Why is this so hard for me? So one of my clients, who's an amazing trademark lawyer, she, through this, when we were working together, found out that she's a projector. That's the other type that doesn't have sacral energy. So she was always comparing herself to other lawyers who tend to be generators and staying up all night and, you know, working on cases and other lawyer things throughout the night. And she's like, I would always look at them in law school and be like, I need to go to bed at 9 o'clock. And they were staying up till 3, 4 in the morning and then rolling into court in the morning, like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And so when we learned that what she needed to do for her body, she didn't compare herself to the other people. And we came up with her own playbook that was bespoke to her needs so that she can show up as her authentic self. So really knowing who you are and how you want to show up. So another way for me when I was in the boardroom, and these were very overwhelming, like think Chicago marble boardroom tables that are like 4 inches thick, overlooking the skyline with only men in suits. These were the rooms I was walking into, and I would wear like these Banana Republic suits. I don't like dark. I'm a very bright, as you can clearly see by my slides, I like bright, big colors and bold. And I was like, I am done trying to dress like these old men. I'm going to be Grace. I'm still amazing, but I'll feel more confident if I'm showing up as me. So I would wear red pants with 4-inch gold heels. I didn't look like a stripper, I promise. Like it was still very professional, but I felt very confident being me instead of trying to wear the outfit of these older men that I was working with. And I'd have a little flair, a little that really made me feel comfortable then, sharing my thoughts, sharing my ideas. And that's what really helped me catapult my career to the next level was this is Grace. Everybody knew me from this style that I had. Now, creating a sparkle plan. I'd love to have a better name for this. So if anybody wants to share one with me, that'd be great. But the Canva sparkle really, really grabbed me. We have to fight through imposter syndrome. We have to have a game plan that's going to help us rise above. You don't just change a habit by being like, well, imposter syndrome's gone, we're good. So what can you do in your environment if you're feeling I'm less than, I'm not smart enough? What can you do? Like for me, it was changing my outfit and my style, staying within the guidelines of being professional. So I worked with a lot of banks. I'm clearly not going in tank tops, going into private wealth managers' offices. Like, hey, I always wore the appropriate clothing, but I showed my personality. So it could be a power playlist that pumps you up. You know, Beyonce, thank you for making 1 million strong female empowered songs. There's 1 million out there that really get you going. I had one. I'm a Jay-Z fanatic. And back in 2006, I used one of his songs that I listened to blasted on my way to every sales call. And I was just like, yes, I've got the power. And I went into it. My cousin at the time was playing football for Penn. And I played it for him. And he's like, that became their locker room song before all their games as well. So again, thank you, Jay-Z, Beyonce, powerhouse right there. Affirming mantras. I love Brian Tracy, probably more than any person should love Brian Tracy. If anybody knows psychology of sales, I like toured around watching him speak at different places. So I'm a little embarrassed by sharing my love of him, but he always said before his sales calls, he would go and be like, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. And I do the same thing, not necessarily like I'm the best. Like he get in there really, old man like, but I'll always tell myself like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. You've studied this forever. You are good to go. Let's take this example. Like we know that I suffer from imposter syndrome because I've shared that with you. So doing talks like this, I'm like, who am I to talk about imposter syndrome? And I just gave myself a pep talk 20 minutes ago. I'm like, no, actually, you're the only person that should be talking about imposter syndrome. Like if there's any topic, you've got this, share it with them, have fun with it. Phone a friend. My mom would always be like, you're nervous for a sales call, huh? Because I'd call her on the way to a sales call and just pep myself up and get my voice going and change my inflection and such. And so she was my friend that I'd call to say, hey, yeah, I'm feeling this way. Let's get this going. Let's rev me up. Let's get going. A brag book. I keep my testimonials in my eyes on my wall over here that if I'm feeling less than, I'll read my testimonials. And I always joke with my clients when we're building out their websites, have a page that, like everyone always says, have 3 testimonials, which is completely wrong. You should have no less than 8 testimonials on your webpage or in your Google reviews or on your Yelp or wherever your business is being reviewed. Clients and future users of your business, clients of your businesses, they read up to 8 testimonials before making a buying decision. So there's just a little sales tip. But a break book, like I have a page on my website that I can just scroll through and be like, oh, I forgot about that. That's so amazing. So have places where you can look back to see how awesome you are. So when you're feeling less than, take a look at that. Then set yourself up for success. If you are saying to a client, yeah, I'll do your website. I had that with a client and I was like, let me be very clear. I will write everything on your website. I will write every word. I will edit every word. I will not code. I will do no graphic. We will have to pay someone. That is not my expertise. So setting yourself up in business to know what is your lane and what you're really good at and go down that road. So this could also be where you pick a niche. A lot of my clients, a lot of people struggle with saying, I'm working with a realtor who is, well, I only work with millionaire investors, but I also work with first-time home family buyers. Like, pick your lane. Who are we working with? Because if you're all over the place, then you're nowhere. And then have a you thing, something that you can tie in that's personal to you, that you feel really good about. So like I wear this necklace, I just got it. It's a little tiger and it makes me feel like me, like I'm bold, I'm this. I have another friend who, and I think Nan knows who I'm talking about if Nan's still on the call here, but she wears Converse and that's her you thing. That's her thing that aligns people back and says, okay, that's who this person is. I know what I'm getting when I show up here. I'm not expecting 4-inch heels. I'm expecting Converse, relaxed, laid back conversation. But she's an expert in her field. So I'm inviting everybody who's on this call. We're going to do some Q&A and open it up, but last slide, always a little awkward. So if you're ready to conquer your imposter syndrome, feel free to reach out to reachgrace.com and we'll have a 30-minute consultation and we'll talk through what your I'm going to look at your human design. I'm going to see what your splenic gates are that are the fear gates and what's holding you back and what's propping up your imposter syndrome. And then if you decide to work with me, I will give you 10% off of whatever package you're interested in doing. So at this time, Michaela, should we open up for any questions that people might have?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone in the audience, please feel free to either unmute yourself or you can also send a question in the chat, whatever you feel more comfortable with. I know I have a quick question for Grace.
Yeah.
What is that song that you always listen to?
I know you're going to ask me that and I have like zero attention to detail. You Don't Know. I think that's it's called You Don't Know. And it's so amazing when you listen to it. The chorus of it is like some other singing being like, you don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I can't say Jay-Z words, but not appropriate for this discussion. However, it's basically like the F I don't. Mm-hmm. And he goes really hard and it's him being really bold and like, I got this. I can sell ice in hell. I can send water to a well. I got more 6s than first grade. Like, it's just awesome how it's that voice in your head that's like, you don't know what you're, and him going like, yeah. And here's all the reasons I'm so great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everyone in the audience, please feel free to ask your questions. We have a few minutes left, so please don't be shy.
I'm going to unmute. I'm not going to unvideo because I'm in the middle of eating my lunch. But hi, yes, Grace, I do know who you're talking about with the Converse. So my question
Who's talking?
is,
I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, it's Nan.
Oh, it's
hi.
Nan. Hi.
Sorry, you probably can't see everybody.
No,
so
I know the voice and I can't see who we're talking about.
It's This Is Your Life. Do you know this voice?
Right. Like, oh, here she is.
I will get to the question. So my question is about, and you probably know, because you know me, it's about pricing. So it's about the underpricing and that fear of overpricing yourself out of the work.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to write a contract right now for a nonprofit. And then I always get in my mind, first of all, oh, no, nonprofits don't have money, which is not true.
Right.
But the question is sort of like, how do you just kind of say, this is what I cost and just go with it?
Do you want the Grace version or do you want the short version?
I want the version that will help all of us.
I know. So first off,
let me go back to
you need to determine what your goals are financially and then come up with an hourly rate. So, Linda Evangelista said, I don't get out of bed for less than 10 grand back in the 90s. Your picture is so cute, Nan, that you're like smiling at me so cutely. But then we choose our niche. So I have a whole spreadsheet that says, you put in, here are all the bills I have to pay. Here's like what my actual financial requirements are. Then here are my savings goals. Here are my I have shopping goals in there. here are all the money. And then here's how many hours I want to work a week. Here's how many vacation weeks I want to take. And it spits out a, your hourly rate is $175. So nonprofits do have money. But it might be that that's not a niche you want to go after if your rate is pricing you out of the nonprofit game. So that's kind of that thing is if you're working with the mom and pops because you're playing with small fish clients, because that's all you feel like you can get, which Nan, I know that you clearly can do much higher than that. Then that's where you're coming up when you're feeling like there's a pricing issue because they're not going to pay me what I'm worth. So that's a niche thing, and not knowing what you need as your hourly rate through not a feeling, but an actual tangible mathematical equation. And then third, I always say, don't let your client or don't make buying decisions for your clients. You don't know what they're willing to spend on what. They might say, you know what, Nan is the best. We love working with her. So we're going to give her, $250 an hour. We're going to pay this $2,500 for this program. And instead, we're just not going to have this for this month. And they'll determine where they want to spend their cash. Does that make sense?
Yes, sorry, I was in transit.
I'm like, Nan?
I'm here.
Yes, yes.
I am multitasking. Yes, that actually is a really great perspective of thinking about, because a lot of people know me as working with a lot of startups and small business owners. And so then I do get in that mindset of like, oh gosh, they're not going to have the budget. I know they want to work with me, but you are absolutely right about like thinking about it, like the buckets of money, like, okay, so maybe they won't pay. Or not, I don't want to say no, won't pay, but maybe they won't spend on this, but maybe they
won't prioritize.
Yeah, they're
building their website right now. Maybe they'll put that off 3 months to make sure that their content is totally right, and they'll shuffle things around. And I think also like saying small businesses, this is something that really, really irks me. As you know, Nan, just because you are a small business, like we've talked about my friend who started her agency, she is a small business. She is a one-woman show. But she has landed $3 million in client work in less than a year. Financially, she is not a small business, but by size. So small businesses doesn't necessarily mean you are broke, you're poor, and you have no money. A lot of my clients, one of my clients started when she was doing $300-400 a month in her cottage license kitchen, and recently has hit the $500,000 mark this year. So she prioritized working with me and paying my rates, which are not small business rates, because she knew she needed the help. And she knew that she needed somebody to help guide her on how to start her business. And so she has grown her business astronomically because of reaching out for help from me. Anyone else? And sales questions are good too, because I love sales.
Looks like we have time for about one more question, so please feel free to ask. I know I have a question for you, Grace. So what do you do when you just feel like you're in such a rut, and even after trying to be I guess a little bit stronger, and you like are trying to get the imposter syndrome to go away, and you just still feel like you can't get that last bit? What do you do to overcome that obstacle?
I watch Below Deck Mediterranean. No, I give myself that grace though. Think about it. We're pushing so hard all the time and we're trying to be the best. So when my imposter syndrome gets way out of control, and believe me, it does, I don't like and Michaela and I went through this when we were trying to title this, is like, I don't like banishing, because every turn in my career, it's shown up again. It's like slap me in the face, like, whoa, I thought we dealt with that. Nope, you're right here. Hi. So I like conquering. And to answer your question, what I do is say, what can I do right now? Like, this feels so overwhelming. No, I cannot paint the Sistine Chapel, but maybe I could buy the paints today. What can I do that can bite size this down? I'm all about, like, we know, Brian Tracy, eat the frog. what is it that I can do? Maybe just a toenail of the frog today while I get to the whole frog. Which now I wonder if frogs have toenails. But I also like, that's exactly like, I allow myself to be me. And I allow myself to admit to myself, like, I don't know this and I'm feeling scared about this. How do I want to move forward? Do I just want to banish and be like, we're done, quit, call it a day? Or do I want to fight through this and figure out a better way to handle this?
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Looks like we actually have one more question in the chat.
Okay. Yay.
So, oh, it's a long one. Can you see it, Grace?
No, you guys, I am like, show chat previews. Maybe if I stop.
Here, I can read it to you.
Can you read it to me? I'm sorry, I can't get it.
Yeah, no problem. What do you suggest, especially to young people or people transitioning fields whose confidence, experience, and skills do not necessarily align? Perhaps someone is confident but doesn't have the expertise or skills and then begins to undervalue themselves or doesn't want to oversell themselves because they don't have developed skills for a job.
Oh my God, I love that question so much. First, I would say just come sit next to me and I'll tell you why you are completely 100% perfect for that job. I had a marketing assistant at one of my magazines and she was making, I don't know, 35 a year. And I pushed her up to 100 grand by helping her get a position. And that was exactly it. And I'm a very open book. I'm from Chicago. So I apologize to all of our New Englanders who are going to be mortified by this overshare. But I was sitting in the bath, 9 months pregnant, talking to her before her interview because I couldn't move. And I said, okay, let's go through the job description. And she would say, you know, this fancy term of what the job included or needed. And I was like, okay, so let's look at your life. Where have you done something like this? This is another way to say that you've planned a party. Have you planned a party? Yeah, I've done 375. Our magazine was insane for parties. And I'm like, okay, so that's that. Procuring branding items, I think was something along. And I'm like, okay, have you ever bought something in bulk? And she's like, well, yeah, for a birthday party. I'm like, well, okay, so you've done that. So what I say is to get your confidence up, just find examples in your life, wherever, not just in the corporate or the business world, but anywhere in your life where you have done a skill similar to the one that they're asking for you to do. Now, undervaluing yourself, we all have no idea what we're doing. Remember, 70% of us have imposter syndrome. So we all don't know what we're doing. Most of us have just gotten really good at faking it till we make it. And I am a complete believer in that. Now, I'm not saying oversell your ability. So again, I'm not going to say I can do your website. I'm going to say I can take you this far because I'm not going to be able to code the rest of your website. So be honest. But if you're pretty damn good at writing a website, you can say that, you know? So I don't know if I'm answering the question exactly. Michaela, am I?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
So I think it's really going back to that Bragg book that I talked about of proving your imposter syndrome wrong. That, and to answer your question before, that's what I do is I set out a mission I know I have a splenic gate 58, I believe it is, that I like the I told you so's in life. So that also, I like to show my imposter syndrome that it was wrong. And I told you so. I told you I could do this. So again, knowing yourself and knowing what's going to align for you and knowing how to fight it. So, you know, one of the gates in your spleen is caring for other people. You can be one of those people that you care for and saying, hey, you know what? I know this is really hard for you. I'm going to get you through this and carry that inner scared person of yourself across the finish line.
That's great. Thank you, Grace. And
but starting out in your career, you have to be in that place of not knowing so that when you're older like me, you can be like, oh my God, I miss those days that I was scared. This is the most amazing time for you to make your blooper reel. And I envision myself standing on the TEDx stage and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. And I've gotten further along in my career that I can actually point to pictures and graphics that I've made and be like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed to share this. And now I'm so much further along that I'm like, then I wanted to die. Now I'm like, that's hilarious. So enjoy making your blooper reel.
Great. That is awesome. And we do have a few more comments in the chat that I'm actually going to send you the comments via email. And then Actually, let me see. Catherine and Mark, I don't know if you want to, you can email me or private message me your email and I can send it to Grace to answer your questions just because we are running really short on time. So I do want to say thank you so much, Grace. I feel like this was a tremendous presentation. It was so compelling and I just really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so passionate about this. So you guys, honestly, take advantage of that 30-minute consultation. I love it. It is not a sales call.
Awesome. And then would you mind just clicking to the last slide?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
No worries at all.
I'm like, it's all about me.
No, this was amazing. And now for our next timely topics, we have a veterans themes timely topics next Thursday. So you can also find this on our CCEI website and you can sign up via Eventbrite, as well as we will have some marketing materials going out next week that you'll also have the ability to sign up for. So thank you again for everyone for joining us. And please let me know if you would like to connect with Grace and I can certainly send you her email. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, guys.